Funakoshi Sensei knew only kata, and Mabuni Sensei was the same. Therefore, they are not karate experts. G'day guys, it's Shane from Karate Over Coffee. Now, I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to read out an article that my father wrote maybe 10 or 15, 20 years ago. It's been doing the rounds a little bit. I've published it a couple of times on my own Facebook page. And there's been some controversy about it, which is totally unusual for me and totally unusual for my father. But a long time ago, he used to run a Shoto Research Society International group about karate history, trying to shine a light on stuff that we didn't know. But yeah, I mean, if he was, if he was my age now, he'd probably have his own podcast or YouTube channel or something like that, and probably making more connections. And but anyway, look. So this is an article based on my father's talks with Mitani Kazuya, who is 7th Dan Seito Karate Setokukai, and he was Kinjo Hiroshi's senior student. He's 88. So if you're not sure who Kinjo Hiroshi is, well, he started karate in 1927, I believe, 27, 28, when he was 7 years old, and 7 or 8 years old. And he started in the Okinawan karate schools. And he was 94 when he passed, and he was involved in karate his whole life, basically. He's been often referred to as walking encyclopedia of knowledge of karate. So anyway, before I start talking, so all I'm going to do is just read it out to you. It's a bit long, probably easier to listen to it than read it for some. But if you want a copy, just let me know. If you're interested in understanding more about karate history, listen on, watch on, and read on. But if you're pretty set with your current karate dojo, maybe it's time for you. Maybe you shouldn't listen on, especially if you are Wado or Shutoru or Shotokan, Shotoru. This might not be what you want to hear, but again, it's somebody's perspective from their involvement in karate. That I've warned you. Okay. So here we go. So the below article pulls no punches and doesn't make any apologies. However, if you truly want to understand karate, then lead on and absorb the information. So my discussion with Mitani Sensei, one of the last teachers of original karate, Bob McMahon, 7th Dan Seito Karate Sotokukai. So let me have a quick sip. Oh yes. Oh yummy. Bit of coffee, because this is Karate Over Coffee. So Mitani Kazuya Sensei, 7th Dan in original traditional karate, is a student of the late master of the original karate, Kinjo Hiroshi, 9th Dan Hanshi. I think he was 10th Dan after he passed. Kazuya Sensei is attempting to alert karateka from around the world to the possibility that original karate may soon be lost to us all. He feels that it is his duty to speak out about the original karate before it disappears from the world altogether. He's receiving both pleasant and unpleasant email communication in regard to his forthright views. So just as a side note, this is in here. This was not 2000, 2001, I think, is when he started writing all of these things. So just so that's 20 years ago. here we go. So he said, I hardly speak about the truth in Japan because many karate teachers do not favor the truth. They prefer to hide it. According to Mitani Kazuya, Sokon Matsumura is the true pioneer of karate. He was an expert in Jigen-ryu swordsmanship and used the concepts and principles from this art to influence the Tei of Okinawa in the Shuri district. This influence was so deep that the very term Shuri-tei is considered to be the Tei of Matsumura. Very few karateka, Japanese included, are aware of this. Now, this is 20 years ago. Bear that in mind. Matsumura students such as Kensu Yabukensu, Kyan Chotoku, and Hanshi no Chomo were also experts in Shuri-tei. Although Enko Itosu was also an expert, it was not until he turned 60 years of age that he finally understands Shuri-tei at last. Itosu was teaching Shuri-tei before he created karate for school students at the request of the Okinawan Board of Education. Karate was a name given to the martial art program of the school curriculum for physical education. However, Gichin Funakoshi, Kenwa Mabuni, Kanken Toyama, and others cannot be called experts because they did not know what Mitani Sensei refers to as Maniao technology. I'll return to this later a little further down. Just a side note again, Mitani Sensei refers to as technology are the principles, movements, techniques found in karate. The concepts, principles, techniques, he talks about it as technology. So we do talk a lot about technology, so just bear that in mind when I say technology, that's what he's referring to. Mitani Sensei follows the 10 teachings of Itosu, which he refers to as the textbook of karate. He says that the physical aim of karate is to seize and down an enemy. Strike the enemy first, then seize and finally restrain or throw him to the ground. So restrain, joint locks, throw, or throw them to the ground. There are occasions when grappling can be used first. These are the techniques and principles of karate, and this must be with the correct timing and correct distance, which is maniao. Kata conveys this. Another side note, maniao may just means in the correct time, but Mitani Sensei uses this word maniao for like perfect distance, perfect timing. That's what you're trying to achieve. Mitani Sensei says, still many Japanese karate teachers misunderstand the form or the way it looks in kata with karate. Kata is only a style, it is not karate. The techniques of karate are called waza, and although waza is in kata, the form or the way it looks in kata is not waza. Karate that has been passed on to the world from Japan is full of errors. It is clear that it is not useful for physical confrontations away from the dojo. So side note, what Mitani Sensei is talking about is Japanese karate instructors confuse what a kata looks like with how it should be done in a physical confrontation. So for this reason, Mitani Sensei is completely uninterested in kata competition. He reluctantly teaches kata to his competitors who have been successful in kata competition. He teaches 2 kata from the original 14 kata of karate for kumite using original karate techniques and movements. So side note, the 14 kata, the 5 pinan, the 3 naifanchi, pasai-sho, pasai-dai, kosokun-sho, kosokun-dai, chinto, and goju-shio. That's the 14. So let's get back to it. So the two kata that he teaches using original karate techniques, karate principles, karate movements are Pinanidan and no Hanshi Shodan. Side note, got a lot of side notes. I did a video on how I teach kumite using these principles. So you can, I think it's in now on the karate page, on the Karate and Coffee page. Let's get back to it. So he teaches the following kata for competition and teaches them as you would teach dance. He teaches Nipapo, Oidumare Pasai, Matsumoto Pasai, Anan, Heiku, and others. Again, this is 20 years ago. So this is when he was one of the first to start teaching, Anan, Heiku outside of the Ryu. He taught it just as you're teaching dancing, looking this way, only for children. Mitani Sensei says that he's mainly teaching karate to children from 5 to 15, and at this level he feels it's enough to just learn Pinanidan for kumite. He thinks there are very few karate teachers in Japan who understand Pinanidan. His students, through his training, won the All Japan Junior Team Kumite title 4 years in a row. He only entered his students because he was challenged on his views of the difference between what he calls original karate and today's modern karate. In Japan, he says the teachers involved in sport karate don't like martial art karateka because they are not successful in competition. So martial art karateka means people who practice karate not for sport, but for combat or for self-defense. The martial art karate teachers similarly don't like sport karate because they only know sport karate technology. Both groups are basically correct in their opinion, but neither group understand that they're both practicing the same karate, which is not what it was intended to be. Side note, so what he's saying is people who do competitions and those who don't do competitions, for example, most Shotokan clubs who do not do competition are still training the same way as those doing competition. But they're doing the same things, but one is doing competition and one is not doing competition, but they're both practicing the same karate. And Mitani Sensei says that they both are doing it without understanding what the original intention is. Let's get back to it. The teachers belonging to martial art karate do not realize that the original karate is a superior martial art. Similarly, the tournament technology of the teachers belonging to sport karate is stagnant. In short, their technology has stood still on the starting line while the technology of other karate groups in the world has raced ahead. Now, this was 20 years ago, and Japan has caught up with the kumite. But for a long time, the kumite, the sport karate in Japan was not moving forward. But 20 years later, yes, they have. Although at the Olympics, they didn't win a single. They won one medal in kumite, which is probably not the best for Japan. In kumite competition, about 70 to 80% of the technology of karate can be used. So when he's referring to karate here, he's referring to original karate or shurite. His students beat the competitors from the four major modern karate styles: Shoto, Wado, Goju, Shito, with the technology of original karate. In kata competition, only about 10 to 20% of the technology of original karate can be used. Most of the technology of kata competition is the technology of dance. This is the reason he does not favor kata competition. So what he's saying is, in shurite, or original karate, he's saying that you can use 70 to 80% of the technology or the concepts, the movements, the techniques, and use that in kumite. He's saying that only 10 or 20% of that technology, timing, concepts, principles, techniques can be used in kata competition. So for For the other 90 or 80%, he teaches it like a dance. Slapping of the gi, for example, breathing out, stamping. All of these things that have nothing to do with karate or the original intention of karate is what's being taught, and he was teaching that too. This reason he does not favor the kata competition. Training in karate is not about learning kata, he says. He also does not teach moving basics, so Ido Kion, which is a method developed by Shotokan teachers. So, side note again, he doesn't teach moving forward, punching, blocking, creating inside block, outside block, punch, all of these things. In the Japanese mainland, training is wholly based on this. He considers that it is a mistake because students then cannot understand karate, original karate. Kion is said to be the basics throughout the world. However, it is the basics for kata. I don't like to call it basics, I like fundamentals, but those fundamentals are for kata. So what is being taught is a basics for kata, or the fundamentals for kata competition. Let's get back. I teach Kion for karate, not just for kata. Karate is not kata, but the technology of fighting. So again, he's using the term technology. So let me say it again. I teach Kion for karate, not just for kata. Karate is not kata, but it's the technology of fighting. I teach neither 3-step Sanbon nor 1-step Ippon Kumite. Instead, I carry out the practice methods of the original karate. Throws, nagewaza, and jujitsu locks, kanzetsu, are important in karate. These are called toride. Of course, toride grappling is unnecessary in competition, but toride grappling is very important within karate. If you're not practicing, just a side note, if you're not practicing these, you're not practicing karate. This is a big thing. If you're not practicing throws, jujitsu, locks, the toride throws, you're not really practicing karate. You're practicing sport style. Let's get back to it. Karate practice is centered on the makiwara, he explains. There is no fixed concept in makiwara training. The makiwara is a training partner, and all training partners can be described as makiwara. If you hit a bag, that is a makiwara. Even if you hit the air, it can be classified as a makiwara. The best makiwara is a human being, and that is a training partner that can also attack and defend. The makiwara is a really general term for a training tool. In boxing, there is a heavy bag, a light bag, a punching bag, etc. These things would be described as makiwara if they are connected with karate. So side note, so we talk about the makiwara being the board, but in Kinjo Sensei and Mitani Sensei, they're understanding that makiwara is not just a board, it is everything. So when I talked about I practiced 20 minutes of makiwara training, that is training at the dojo with bags, makiwara post. All of these things can be considered makiwara. The best makiwara is a training partner because it is a live moving target. Let's get back to it. The concept of correct timing and proper distance, i.e. maniao, this training is practiced by means of a makiwara. While power in a punch is important, the power to break things is unnecessary. The purpose of makiwara training is not to train the fist. This is a concept of using the makiwara in shurite and in karate. In Japan, many think that the purpose of the makiwara is to make a hard fist, but this is a big mistake. This is also misunderstood in other districts in Okinawa. In kata, we leave the punch extended in order to show the technique clearly. However, in makiwara training, we hit so the punch bounces and we move our body at the same time as we hit. We practice kata and then proceed to makiwara training, where we practice the timing of offensive and defensive moves. This is a training of karate as it is written in Itosu's 10 teachings. So the makiwara training he's talking about is not just the board, but it is everything. A moving target, a heavy bag. Funakoshi Sensei knew only kata, and Mabuni Sensei was the same. Therefore, they are not karate experts. Shitoru, Shotokan-ryu, and Wada-ryu are descendants from Shurite, but because they have lost the technology of karate passed down from Shurite, I do not consider them to be karate. Of the four major styles, Goju-ryu is correct, but it is different to the culture from which karate emerged. Side note, yeah. So Mitani Sensei and Kinjo Sensei is of the belief that because Mabuni and Funakoshi did not train in karate, they were not karate experts, they only knew kata. So therefore they cannot be considered original karate experts. There might be kata experts, but he's saying that they did not understand karate and therefore did not teach it. Let's get back to it. I know. Itoshi said that when you learn kata, study the oral teachings, which is called kuden, simultaneously. Many of the modern karate teachers do not know kuden. They have not had the necessary instruction to qualify as karate teachers. This is why bunkai or oyo was created, to fill the gap in knowledge, and one of the reasons why we have karate styles. In kata, we perform the middle punch, chudanzuki, but the correct target is the enemy's face. Chudanzuki of kata is actually jodanzuki. This is the sort of information relayed through oral transmission, or kuden. A stepping punch, or izuki, is delivered before the front foot is placed on the ground. This is effective timing, maniao. It's a method of putting weight into a punch. There are very few Japanese who have been taught oizuki correctly by Japanese karate teachers. Side note, this is a huge one for us, and we've been doing this for many, many years, but when I see kata competitions and many other karate, it's hand and foot at the same time. It's a delayed punch, whereas we are hand before the foot. If you look in kumite, they all hit before that foot touches because it is a natural movement. The punch gets there earlier. Punch isn't faster. I'm not saying the punch is faster, but it gets to the target earlier. And this is how we train in kata, and this is how we train in makiwara, and this is how we train in kumite. It's all the same. All the same. Let's get back to it. There is no oizuki in the kumite of knife hanchi. Also, another significant feature is there is no switching of the body. It is a front foot, front hand strike, kazamiski, that is used, with defense coming from the rear hand. This is difficult waza to apply in a kumite tournament. Therefore, I only teach adult expert players this method. The technical essence of shurite and karate is the same. Karate can be immediately converted into shurite by kuden. So what he's saying here is the original karate can be immediately converted into shurite by talking about it, by kuden, understanding why this hand and this hand, why backhand and front hand. When I see the Pina Nidan, or Heian Shodan, or Shotokan-ryu, Shito-ryu, Wado-ryu, I believe that Gichin Funakoshi, Kenwa Mabuni, and Otsuka did not understand karate. As an example, I will explain the most complicated waza of this kata, i.e. the last two actions of this kata. In Shotokan-ryu, the mid-level knife hand block, or Chudan Shutu-kei, is performed twice on the left and twice on the right at 45-degree angles. This loses the meaning of the waza. This loses the meaning of the technique. In Shito-ryu, the lower parry, Gedan Uke, is carried out twice. In Shikodachi, this is not quite correct. As Shikodachi loses the meaning of the waza as well. Shito-ryu mixed karate and goju-ryu, And for this reason, Shitoru is unpopular in Okinawa. In Wadoru, this section is performed with Nukute in Shikodachi. This cannot be called karate any longer. Shikodachi and Nukute together is not the technology of fighting. It's not, so he's saying technology again. It's not the principles, movements, techniques of karate. Using Shikodachi is merely imitating Shitoru. I do not understand the use of Nukute here, and it may have been a way to distinguish a new style. Shorin-ryu here it shows the correct waza, and it is the same as karate. The correct waza is a lower parry, gedan uke, in cat stance, nekoeshidachi. Nekoeshidachi implies a front leg front kick, as in reality, the cat stance is not actually carried out. An enemy's testicles have been kicked while parrying his kick. Side note, so when we practice nekoeshidachi, we're always under the assumption that we can kick with that front foot. So that's why the weight is on the back leg, because so we have the ability to use that front leg. Not just kicking the testicles, but kicking the inside leg. But we always have the ability to do that. Whether we do it or not, that's not important. It's what we can if we need to or want to, right? So when we practice nekoeshidachi, so when somebody kicks or attacks in a low action with their left foot or their left hand, we use a downward sweeping block, which is a gedan barai or gedan uke or gedan shutuke. Just have a look at Shorin-ryu that they do it correctly. One, it's a sweeping move across, and we use that front leg to attack. You cannot do that if you're doing chudan shutuke or nukute. It loses that meaning. Let's get back to it. The purpose of the technology of fighting karate is poking in enemies' eyes or crushing their testicles. Also, the reason for performing this at 45-degree angle suggests a side step. The technical essence of shurite and karate is the same. Karate is immediately converted into shurite by kuden. He says it again. So, side note, this is what, when we do two movements, we go left and then out 45 degrees, it shows that we are using an angle when we move. That's the concept that he's trying to get across. The difference between shurite and modern karate, the following concepts. Jodanzuki turned into chudanzuki, body punch, which we've talked about and which we know. Open hand strikes became closed hand fists. So kaishu, open hand, fingers to the eyes, grabbing testicles, crushing testicles, all became closed fists. Little moving turned into more moving. So the little hip body movements turned into bigger over actions. So in shutuke, for example, so small moves became big, strong, big over the top action. Just for example, kakite, so this hooking block turned into shutuke. And as a side note, if you look at shitoru, you cannot see if they're doing a shutuke. You can't see this kakie movement anymore, or this round action. It's become a push forward. Very hard to understand. If you didn't understand, if nobody told you in kuden, if nobody explained it to you, then you would really struggle to see how this movement in shitoru came from a kaki movement. Anyway, let's get back to it. So shikodachi turned into naifanchi-dachi, jodan uke turned into chudan uke. So high inside block became a middle inside block. So these are some of the principles where the difference between shurite and karate. So let's return to the tei of the pioneer Matsumoto Sokon. I believe that shurite and Fuchin Shorin are not the same culture. All of the tei from Kumi village, i.e. Nahate, Goju-ryu, Uechi-ryu, are Chinese martial arts, or at least a subset. Probably they are wonderful arts. It also said that shurite is one of them, but I don't agree. I believe that shurite seceded from the Chinese martial arts, and shurite is a Japanese martial art. Of course, its mother is in China, but so as a side note, what he's saying is Naha, Goju, Weichi, they are a Chinese martial art, where he says that shurite is an Okinawan martial art, or Japanese martial art, if you want to use that term. Both have a mother in China, but shurite has left that a long time before Goju or Naha or Nahate or Weichiru, whereas shurite still has a motherland in China, but it is its own martial art. It's the following 3 points where shurite differs from the others. 1, footwork, continuous punches, moving forward, bang, 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 bang. 2, speed, and he's got in brackets power. So where with speed comes power. 3, specialization to fighting. So what he's saying is a very rational approach, no nonsense. So straightforward, A to B. A lot of karateka take great pride in studying karate from one of the 4 major styles: Shotokan, Shitoru, Goju, Wado. And this is a sad situation. Japanese people have promoted karate as a mysterious, exotic martial art. However, Japanese people they didn't really intend any malice. They were deceived by their own seniors and believed that they were correct. Only a small number of karate men understand the true situation. So what he's trying to say is it's not the fault of the guys studying or practicing Shotokan or Shitoru or Wado. It's their instructors who did not understand what they were teaching. So they were not. So he's referring back to Funakoshi, Otsuka, Mabuni. They did not understand karate because they were not karate experts. They only taught kata. This is why in these three styles there is very little of understanding karate. Otsuka has a background in jiu-jitsu for sure, and definitely is jiu-jitsu in Wado. But what Mitani Sensei is saying is it's not karate. So he's saying it's not the fault of the modern karate. It's the instructors not to ask the questions about this or that. But anyway, look, yeah. So there's some really great things in this. And if you do want a copy of it, please let me know. I'll make one available for you. If you didn't agree with it, fantastic. That's why we're here. We're all learning. I use this to base my karate off. So yeah, it is pretty interesting stuff. So if you leave me a comment, would love to hear it. Start a discussion. I'm always happy to talk about karate, especially these sorts of controversial subjects. But anyway, alrighty guys, I'll see you later. Thank you for listening to Karate Over Coffee. And if you're enjoying the podcast and getting something out of the episodes, there are a few things you can do to help us. If you don't already subscribe to us on YouTube, please do so. We release these episodes every Friday morning, Australian time. Plus, we release some smaller espresso shots during the week on both our YouTube channel and our Facebook community group. You can also subscribe to us on our Apple or Spotify. Leaving a 5-star review will be very beneficial as well. If you have any suggestions or topics or feedback or anything that you want to talk about, please put it in our comment section on our Karate Over Coffee community Facebook group. If you'd like to support us, please visit our online shop where we have official Karate Over Coffee shirts, hoodies and mugs available. Your continued support is appreciated and a vital way for the podcast to keep moving forward. Thanks guys.